Okay. Good morning, everyone, and welcome as we begin our Lunch and Learn series for Hispanic Heritage Month. We are beginning with our panel discussion today. And my name is Jacqueline Boland. I am the CEO at the Intercultural Advocacy Institute. We operate the Hispanic Outreach Center and Hispanic Leadership Council of Pinellas. And this year for Hispanic Heritage Month, our planning committee has put together a series of Lunch and Learn webinars that many of you have participated in previously, taking you on travel through food and through personal narratives and through trivia to learn more about the Hispanic and Latinx culture and countries. And really what we are doing is celebrating the contributions of the Hispanic and Latinx community to the United States, and more specifically here in Pinellas County. And the committee that has put all of this together is comprised of members from the Empath Health, the Juvenile Welfare Board of Pinellas, the Hispanic Outreach Center, Moffitt Cancer Center, and the Family Healthcare Foundation, and other key community partners who participate in our Hispanic Leadership Council as well. And so today's Lunch and Learn will be a panel discussion on 3 topics that are extremely important in today's environment. And those are voting, health, and wealth. And as you may know, yesterday was the deadline to register to vote in Florida. And as a registered voter, it is so important that you exercise your right and your power through voting this election. And so this afternoon, before we begin our panel discussion, I would like to introduce a special guest who is with us this morning, and that is Congressman Charlie Crist, and he will elaborate more on the importance of civic engagement, especially in today's world. Congressman Crist was the governor of Florida before serving in his current position as the U.S. Congressman for Florida's 13th District. So Congressman, I will turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you, and thank the Hispanic Outreach Center and all of today's panelists for hosting this excellent event and allowing me to join you today during the celebration of Hispanic Heritage Month. The topic of today's conversation is one that is very near and dear to my heart: the power of our vote. Voting is the most powerful tool we have to create change in our country, our state, and our communities. It is most important responsibility we have as citizens, a responsibility we have to our neighbors, our friends, our children and grandchildren. When you vote, you are telling the people in power that you matter. You are holding people like me and other public servants accountable who represent you and accountable for their actions. Put quite simply, you're the boss. And when you share the issues most important to you, your elected representatives listen. When you vote, you have a seat at the table, an equal voice in the decisions that impact our schools, our healthcare, our environment, as well as our economy. But when you don't vote, you allow others to make those decisions for you. And a lot of the time, they're not the ones you would have made. I believe the other topics of today's panel are wealth and health. Voting has a tremendous impact on both of those. Your elected representatives have the power to decide where federal, state, and municipal money gets invested. When you vote, you control how that money is spent and whether it's used to invest in our local Hispanic communities and small businesses or not. When you vote, you help shape our healthcare system into one that benefits you and your family. And in a diverse county like Pinellas, your vote has the power to decide an election. But for the first time voters, deciphering all the information about this year's election can be challenging, especially during COVID-19. So I want to urge you to make a voting plan and consider voting by mail or voting early this election cycle. You can find voting guides and assistance in English and Spanish at votepinellas.com. So you can be fully informed when you cast your ballot. And finally, for those that are already civically engaged, I want to encourage you to consider running for office. There are all kinds of elected positions, from school board to city government, federal representatives like myself, where you can make a real change in our community. And it starts with you. With that said, I'm excited to hear from our Hispanic community leaders on these critically important topics. Thank you for allowing me to share a few words. It is a privilege to be able to be with you and to represent you in Washington. Muchas gracias. God bless you all.
Very good. Thank you so much, Congressman, for sharing those words. And definitely it is vital that we use our voice and our power for change this coming election. And we're going to get into these topics and more in our panel discussion. And in a follow-up email today for all of you who are attending as well, we will include information, as a congressman mentioned, on how to check your registration, how to request a mail ballot, and other information that the panelists will share in this discussion. So without further ado, let's dive into these issues. And I am pleased to introduce Eurydice Garcia, the Community Planning Manager with the Juvenile Welfare Board of Pinellas, who will be our moderator for this afternoon's discussion. So Eurydice, please take it away.
Thank you, Jacqueline, and thank you, Congressman Crist, for emphasizing the importance of exercising the civic responsibility of voting. Good afternoon, buenas tardes. My name is Eurydice Garcia, Community Planning Manager at the Juvenile Welfare Board. It is truly a privilege to moderate this great panel. For the last 3 weeks, we have taken you through a journey of our rich culture, and today will not be the exception. The Census Bureau projects the Hispanic population will double in the next years, reaching 111 million by the year 2060. And speaking about the census, please do not forget to complete the census, as this determines the appropriate representation and impact the funding to better serve our citizens. Minorities might be the engine for future growth, but the number will not be enough. Latinos are still facing some struggles in achieving success and taking advantages of the great opportunities that this country offers. During today's conversation, we are going to cover 3 major factors that intertwine and could impact the growth and thrive of our community. As you hear from our panelists, please feel free to send us questions. They are here, they are the expert, and we will have time for Q&A at the end. Now, let's watch a short video about the power of voting.
Hispanic Heritage Month, and today we're taking a look at the importance of the Hispanic vote in Chicago and across the country. NBC5's Natalie Martinez has the personal stories of some young voters who want to make an impact.
Maya Roman is a senior at Chicago's Lane Tech High School. She's a first-generation Mexican-Puerto Rican teen who says she knows the power of her vote this year.
Youth have so much power in the election as well. We have a really big possibility of swinging the election in whichever way we see fit.
Maya wants to be a diplomat and says she's been looking forward to her first vote since she was 10.
I registered to vote when I got my driver's license, and it was so quick and it was so much fun too.
Her enthusiasm is being felt from Washington to Chicago and beyond tonight with a nationwide kickoff of Votar es Poder, Voting is Power, a voter registration and Get Out the Vote digital campaign showcasing an Afro-Puerto Rican comic book superhero, La Borinqueña.
Our goal for this campaign is to truly encourage all eligible Latinx voters, especially Puerto Ricans and Latinx youth in the U.S., to spread the word that we have the power to change the future of our communities by using our very own superpower, our vote.
I'm here to ensure our vote count. Voiced by actress Rosario Dawson, she emotes strength, like Maya.
We are a very, very strong community, and I would love to see that type of strength in the election and in voting.
Carlos Gonzalez is a Puerto Rican college freshman student working by night at the Brickyard Home Depot store. He too finds himself voting for the first time in November.
Puerto Ricans should have more of a bigger voice.
And this year, early voting and mail-in voting, especially in the context of the coronavirus pandemic, is expected to make a difference, according to Sanchez.
Through our vote, we're able to move on issues that have negatively affected us for years. And this year is so important because the pandemic has had a huge, huge impact in our community.
It's a privilege not a lot of people have. And even the slightest chance to make a change can be a big deal.
Natalie Martinez, NBC.
Thank you, Jacqueline. It is so refreshing to see how our younger generations are taking their civic responsibility so serious, and they understand the power they have in their hands. With that, I would like to introduce an expert in the field. Liz Lebron is the voter outreach manager at the Pinellas County Supervisor of Elections Office. She provides voter education programming in English and Spanish to Pinellas County residents, including voter registration seminars. Liz represents the Supervisor of Elections on the Hispanic Leadership Council, an initiative of the Hispanic Outreach Center, as well as other organizations that serve the Latino community. Liz is currently completing her PhD, go Liz, in political science with a research focus on political participation in immigrant communities. Thank you for joining us this afternoon, Liz. And I have the first question I'm going to ask you. Can you share with us why the participations for Hispanic Latino tend to be lower than other groups?
Buenos dias, mi gente. It is an honor, as always, to be here with you. Thank you so much for welcoming me to your panel, into your homes. I am so happy to be here with you and talk about an issue that's near and dear to my heart, which is voting. And Yaridis, I want to start off by just painting a picture of what the voting landscape looks like for Latinos, and then let's talk about why it looks that way. So Latinos, if you look at the percentage in Pinellas County, so this is from our website, you can see here that, you know, we're relatively small. These are only for Pinellas County, so the numbers are relatively small. We're only about 5% of the population here, so a small number. But if you go to the next slide and look at the percentage, so the percentage of Latino voters, there we go. So the percentage of Latino voters in the 2016 general election is actually quite high for Pinellas County, right? It's rounded up to 70%, so it's pretty good. We just had a presidential primary back in March though, and the number dropped to 23%, right? And that's really where I wanna get to. And then Jacqueline, if you can go back one slide, right there. Okay, so these are national numbers. So the Latino turnout, as you can see, we are that green line right there. So you can see that our turnout is among the lowest in the US, among the lowest groups. So it's really important that we look at the numbers nationally. We're doing well in Pinellas County as far as the general elections, but when we look at those midterm, the primaries, right, so the non-presidential, and then at the national level, even the presidentials, right? So if you can keep it back to that slide. Yeah, so even in presidential years at the national level, you can see that turnout. So if you look at 2016, for example, we're still really low on that scale, right? We're somewhere around 45% compared to closer to 60 and 70 for white Americans and African-American voters on the red line. So now, Yaridis, I want to get into your question, which is why. So there isn't a silver bullet, you know, one answer. If there was, believe me, I would be out there doing that one thing and we would have 100% participation, right? So there isn't that one thing. I want to talk about a couple of factors that play into it. One, you saw also, so the chart that I just showed you had turnout for Latinos, but underneath it was also the age groups. So the Latino population is a little bit younger than the national population, and we know that younger voters have a lower turnout as well. You also look at education levels. So there we go. You can see that the turnout for among young people, especially 18 to 31, is lower. At the national level, it's lower here. Education level also plays a role. So the higher education, more college graduate the more likely that person is to vote. So we need to get, this is an issue of education in the Latino community. The more college and graduate school Latinos that we get, the better chance that those folks are going to come out to vote. I do want to point out, outreach is the number one thing, right? So you see campaigns knocking on doors and they spend a lot of resources knocking on doors. It's because it works. It is the number one thing that gets people out to vote. It's that person-to-person contact, which has been really, really difficult during COVID to do, right? So that's why we're doing sessions like this. But that personal contact, you know, not just sending something in the mail, but actually taking the time to knock on someone's door and say, hey, I want to hear what you have to say. I'm standing here, I'm taking time, I'm spending resources to come to your door and actually listen to what you have to say, right? So that's one of the reasons. Voter outreach from campaigns, right? Look and see where they're spending those resources. And the Congressman mentioned, you know, when you vote, you're letting people like him know, hey, my voice matters. You need to pay attention to me and my community. Well, guess what happens when you don't vote? You let people in elected office know that perhaps they don't have to pay as much attention, right? So that voter turnout is sort of it feeds into itself, right? Because it's low, you're also signaling that, you know, that outreach, spending those resources on outreach isn't going to yield as much, right? So it kind of feeds on itself. So there's a lot more factors that we can get into, but those are some of the main ones that I wanted to highlight.
Yeah, thank you so much, Liz. And you mentioned something key about the younger voters, and it was so refreshing, like we saw in the video, that I think in these elections, younger people are taking more seriously that their voice really count, and they have the power to make a difference in their community. Do you think, Liz, with the COVID-19, you're going to see more challenges or among the Latino community? What do you think is going to happen in this election?
So COVID has really brought a lot of challenges across the board. I mean, it's certainly been, you know, it's had challenges for me. I do voter outreach for our office, which has been very difficult. You know, I'm usually out in the community. I would normally be sitting in a room with all of you, you know, enjoying a lovely afternoon chatting with you in person, and yet here we are on Zoom, right? So I think there are challenges across the board. It can be more difficult because you had to just sort of redesign the way that you conduct outreach, the way that you mobilize people. So there's a potential for challenges, but you can also look at it as there's also a lot of opportunities here, right? And so I choose to look at it that way. I'll give you an example. I hosted a webinar that 4,400 people attended. I would never have 4,400 people at an event, right? It's just unlikely that that many people would come to one of my events. I'm just not that famous, right? So because we're virtual though, the organization that I was working with promoted the event to chapters across the state. It was a voter registration event. And because we have a universal registration form across the whole state of Florida, people from all over the state were able to attend and get help registering to vote. They were not all Pinellas County voters, but that's okay. I was able to reach over 4,400 people and show them how to go on our website and vote. So is it challenging? Absolutely. But there's also additional opportunities for outreach that maybe we weren't taking advantage of before that we can, you know, tap into now and hopefully continue doing in the future. I know this will be something that I continue to offer Pinellas County residents going forward.
Thank you so much, Liz. That was a key point that you said. You know, you mentioned COVID is here and we have to be creative, and somehow our community has taken the initiative to keep engaging the community and spreading the information. COVID has not stopped community engagement in Pinellas County, which is really, really great. Thank you for sharing with us the county and national data. And again, if you have any questions, we're going to have time at the end to answer those questions and to get this information. Like Jacqueline mentioned, we're going to send all this information after we're done today. But like you see, we still have a lot of work to do. If you don't vote, like Liz said, and Jacqueline and Congressman Crist, you don't count. And if you don't count, you are throwing away crucial benefits as it is to have access to healthcare. And with us today, we have our second panelist, Maria Jimenez. She's an Affordable Care Act pioneer, beginning her career as a health insurance marketplace navigator in the early stages of the implementation of the groundbreaking federal law. With the Family Healthcare Foundation, she has acquired years of experience helping individuals, families, and small businesses navigate publicly funded healthcare options, including local safety net programs designed to help those that don't qualify for traditional insurance. Maria is a native Spanish speaker, making Tampa her home for more than 15 years, while building community relationships and a broad network of partners. Maria is a certified health insurance marketplace navigator in the state of Florida and is a 2017 American Dream Award recipient. Welcome, Maria. Again,
Thank you. Yes.
can you share with us why do you think the Latino community have a little bit of trouble getting access to healthcare and tend to be lower than any other groups?
Hi, thank you for having me here. Thanks everyone for joining us. I can say that in the state of Florida, Latino families have a higher labor force participation rate than in other, in the whole country. But we are likely more prone to work in industries that do not offer employer-based coverage for us. So the children are about twice as likely to have less access to coverage. And one of the reasons is that. If you can share the slides, I have some of the numbers here. The Hispanic population is the 21% uninsured, and Hispanic Latino is one of the highest group of any other group segmented by race and ethnicity to be uninsured. And for kids, especially Latino kids, are almost 1.5 times as likely to be uninsured compared to other kids. When Florida legislation, joining again our previous panelist, has a lot to do with that. The voting, all of that can make a really huge impact. And we saw that before with the implementation of the ACA. We had over 15% of uninsured children in 2013, and it went down to 8.6% in 2016. So voting is really something that can make those changes happen. And also with the pandemic, we can look at the impact by the way the Latino community has been affected by it. And if you can go to the next slides, we can see how that is affecting our communities in Pinellas County, and that is from the Pinellas equality profile. You can see the difference between us and other groups. And the next slide, we can also look at the nationwide, the cases with the Hispanic population. You can see that how the children between 5 and 17 years old are affected. 39.9% of the cases are Hispanic. And what is going on with COVID with the Latino kids is they are receiving less attention, mental health, attention from the primary care physicians, the well care, that they need to the well baby checkups, the well child checkups. They're not going to have those resources, the mental health, even though Medicaid and CHIP are the largest source of coverage for Latino kids. We are not receiving those services at this time. And that can increase, the potential for us to get COVID more than any other race. And I don't know if you want to go to the next slide.
So Maria, what do you think we should do as a community? Because you mentioned that parents are not taking their kids to the doctors as before COVID. Is there any advice that you can provide us?
Yes, for the kids, we should keep going, working together in the community. And what Liz said before, that one-on-one interaction is really important for us. And despite the pandemic, we can have access to those families who have, everyone at this point have a phone. So we, the Family Healthcare Foundation, have the ability to do those appointments that we used to do in person by phone, or even using the computer. We can share the screen the same way we are doing that now. We can do the appointments with Zoom. We can share the information that the community needs to get enrolled. We are having next week virtual health and wellness fiesta. We join Moffitt Cancer Center. We have a few panelists as well. We're trying to get the community get involved in getting those services that we much need. We want all to know that we are here, we are open, that we are here for the community, trying to beat all those challenges. And we have the ability to do that. So we are working with helping with Medicaid, CHIP, here in Hillsborough County, where I am right now. We have the Hillsborough County Healthcare Plan as well. We can help with the Affordable Care Act. We have, starting November 1st, the open enrollment period. So all of the resources that the community needs to get enrolled in a plan and to help those kids get the services they much need, we are here to provide those. And I hope you can join us for the first virtual health and wellness fiesta. And I want to share our phone number, which is the 813-995-7005. You can reach us there. You can also look for us on Facebook and Instagram. We are posting events all the time and information, that is important for the community.
Thank you so much, Maria. And we're going to be posting all of the information that you just provided, especially the flyer about the fiesta and your phone number if for people to reach out to you. And you mentioned something really important about, even though we are in the pandemic, telehealth has been very successful. But I know that in the Latino community, we like that one-on-one, and we like the face-to-face. But I think, bringing awareness to the community that yes, it's safe to do telehealth, and that we can get the same services as it would have been face-to-face. I know, Maria, you have a slide about COVID-19 and how it has impacted the Latino community. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. The information that we got there in this slide is from the U.S. Census and from the Florida Department of Health. And if you look at the numbers and the cases, not everybody, has been recorded. More of us, and I had an experience this morning with a family. She was telling me she needs the physical and the vaccine for her daughter to go to school. And she was telling me this morning, I haven't been able to get the services because one family member is having the symptoms at this time. She got, we suspect that she has COVID. So I cannot go in person because we can now have the interaction with people right now. So we don't know how the family is doing right now. I gave the information on how to get tested. But one of the things that we need to get is access to those testing sites, maybe a lower cost or for free. The family needs to know that because we haven't been record all of the cases that are happening right now. you know, and by that conversation with her, I can notice that, you know, the impact in the community. One of the adults in the household has the COVID, but what happened with the rest of them? They're not going out to get tested to find out if they are, you know,
Yeah,
with the symptoms right now. So I think one of those is the main reason. Maybe they don't have coverage. Maybe they're afraid of going to a place where they can um, ask for how much is gonna be that for me. What is that? How can that impact my life? I cannot go to take my daughter to school. I cannot go to work. And all of that is the economic part of the situation as well.
Yeah. That is really important, Maria, because most of our Latino community, they work in places that they don't have, you know, the luxury of taking 14 days to quarantine, and the livelihood depends on the person working. But health is a primary, because if you don't have health, you cannot succeed, you cannot work.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Maria, for sharing this information. And as we can see, access to healthcare is an ongoing struggle among Latinos. And now more than ever, we need to make sure that they are aware of the resources available in our community. There's a lot of resources in Pinellas County. Latinos has been hit very hard by the COVID-19 pandemic. And more than ever, they need to have access to primary doctors to get the preventative care they need, instead of going to the emergency room as an only option. A healthier community translates to a healthier workforce. Now, Jacqueline, let's watch a short video about the task force and the Latino community. Thank you. That was a short video, but it has very impactful numbers about Hispanic and Latino community in the workforce. Now we will hear from our third panelist, who is going to share resources available to get a step closer to wealth. Daniel Castillo Corradine was born in Bogota, Colombia, a beautiful country in South America. Daniel comes from a very large family of 9 members, and his father was the primary caregiver. Everyone in his family graduated from high school. In 1982, Daniel graduated with a bachelor's degree in business administration. He then moved with his wife and 3 kids to the United States. He has been working in the housing field for the last 12 years and is currently working with the Tampa Bay Community Development Corporation as a housing and foreclosure counselor, and also teaches the home buyers class in Spanish. Buenos días, buenas tardes, Daniel, welcome.
Muy buenos días a todos, muy buenas tardes.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. And can you share with us where are the Latino community in the home buying process?
Okay, thanks so much for inviting me to this panel today. The Latinos, we are increasing little by little during the time of the years. In the last years, we have been increasing yearly from 45 to 47 to 2019. Also, Most of the population Latina is younger than any other one. 60% of the Latinos that are home buyers are like millennials and are younger, like the average is like 39 years old. We are the second largest ethnicity population in our country. There are like almost 60 million Hispanics people here in the country. Also, we have been one of the largest also impacted to the GDP of the country. Between 2000 and 2018, we have been putting like a $371 billion, yeah, for the GDP in the country. So we have been increasing 3 times more likely this information. The Latinos is also one of the people who has the most impacted works in the country. More people work in the health lines and others like a restaurant and construction, yeah. And the impact of the community is every day higher and higher, and that's what we are here to spread out our voice and get the help for the community and everyone that is involved in this matter, because there are too many information for the new home buyers, and we can have anyone help as well.
So Daniel, can you give us a kind of a overview of what services Latino community or anybody that is listening to us can get through the Tampa Bay Community Development Corporation besides the home buying process? What other services your organization provide?
Okay, yeah, primarily we have the home buyer that we make the classes, that we teach the classes, the 8 hours that is a requirement nowadays for not only the down payment assistance, as most of the lending industry is asking the people to go to educate, because this has been one of the big challenges that we have in our society is lack of education in this matter. So the only way that we can help the community is get involved, each one of us, and spread out the voice. We have no publicity around anyone. We also provide down payment assistance that we manage in our company. We can work out with the City of Largo and City of Clearwater for the down payment assistance. Also, now City of Largo has been provided us also with the COVID-19 funds to help all the renter or homeowners. This is a big challenge for us to go through, because possibly it's going to end on December 21st. But we hope the government extend this a little more, because there are still too many people that have been impacted and is getting some big problem with this. This program for the COVID for the City of Largo, as I told you, work with the home buyers and the homeowners, and they are willing to help for 12 months, yeah. And regardless that the lenders, they have been going to forbearance for 6 months, and in any case, extend them for another 6 months. So there are too many resources, there are too many information around, but unfortunately, there are for us to spread out the information, so that we access the community, everyone that is today in this main panelist, to spread out the voice with us, to help all this. There are several millions of dollars around, and we provide services in Pinellas and Pasco. And we work out for the Pasco until now. We don't know yet. They are making so many changes for the next year because they are now stopped for the down payment assistance with the home buyers, because they are focused with the people who is impacted by COVID. Yeah, but also we are going to start with the building area. So we are going to start to build some houses. We in the past have some houses put in the market, but now we are going to start to do directly to make the new projects wherever is needed.
Thank you, Danielle. And also, I think you mentioned that foreclosure. What type of services can the families get access to if they're facing foreclosure?
Okay, the people who is facing foreclosure, all the services for us is more likely free. We didn't charge anyone, people who is a homeowners as situation with the housing payments. We help the people to get all the information that is needed for the, submit to the lender. We advise them, we make a counseling session with them before in order to be sure that they are ready to ask the lender to make any modification in your mortgage, or we have to wait for a while because the income, the credit at this time doesn't matter, it's only income that because the lender wanted to see that they are able to continue making the payments, regardless of the situation. And we have those with the budgeting, that is one of the most important tools that we always recommend anyone to work out with, because it's the one that is going to show you really which one is your financial situation at this time. So
you also help with like credit repairs and
yes,
budgeting and bringing awareness to the families that there are certain, what you mentioned, what is the credit threshold? Like when you're buying a home, what is that credit that they need to have?
And normally the lending industry is asking for 640 score in the credit for one of the buyers. But the people sometimes has a situation back in the time and is lower. So we give all the tools, all the advice, and we teach how to deal with this, and in order for them to review the credit. So it's something that we are going to do for free. If the case is so difficult for us, so we refer to another agency that can help us this way. But normally, we are educated in this way because we have to have a certification renewed every 3 years, other than the nowadays had been get for us a certificate. So hopefully all of the company and all the counselors in our company are nowadays certified HAT counselor, so we can go and move forward with anyone at this time.
Thank you so much, Danielle. And we are going to share with you at the end, or maybe in the chat, Danielle's information and the Tampa Bay Community Development Corporation. There's a lot of services in the community, and we know that, like I mentioned before, a step closer to wealth. It's not only about having a bank account. Sometimes for us to become closer to that is owning our first home. And we want to make sure that we break all the barriers to make that possible for our Latino community. And I'm great that some people are putting in the chat that if there's a lot of resources that we mentioned before. Like for instance, if there is families that are out of work because of COVID, 211 CARES Fund to help pay for rent and utilities. So make sure that you call. There's a lot of money in the community. And but again, it's the lack of awareness, the lack of information that our family, they don't have the information. And we know that Pinellas is, we always say, is a county rich in resources. But the more information that our family have, the more power they will have to make a change in their life. So before we finish our panel, if you have any questions, please send us the question now. But I'm going to ask our panelists one question, because when we have a panel, we always want to end with what can we do as a community? We know there's a lot of challenges, we know there's a lot of barriers, but what can we do as a community to help our Latino community to move the needle? If you can just share with us, Liz, I'm starting with you, what can we do?
Okay, the best way to move the needle to help homeowners, Hispanic people, is to help to spread out all the word about all the services that we, agencies like us provide. And thanks for the money that the municipalities has, and is that the way that we survive, yeah, because we didn't share any clients at all. But it's spread out the voice that there are too many, a lot of money outside to help all those home buyers and homeowners at this time. And so the information for this matter to the population Hispanic is vital at this time for them to become homeowners.
Thank you so much. I have a question that was posted for Maria, and maybe that also could be part of, as a community, how can we move the needle? Are you finding any barriers of families getting access to reliable internet or for doing telehealth? Is that one of the barriers that you're seeing?
Not at all. Oh, for him or for me?
Maria Jimenez.
No,
No, not in our case. People have been very welcoming to those changes because remember, we are all trying to stay healthy during this time. So when somebody calls and say, yeah, I need insurance, I don't have for me or for my kids, it's only for me, for my family member. And I said, do we have one of the first question, and after March, we started to, hear that. And do I have to meet anyway? No, we can do it over the phone. I can offer, we can do Zoom. If you have access to a computer, you can do it from your phone. And we don't have the public one. We have the safe one. We can guarantee that you're gonna have privacy. We have to comply to all the laws. And HIPAA law is very important for us. So they are very happy when I say, we don't have to meet. We can do it over the computer. I can share my screen. You can see what is going on. You can see my face. They will, oh, thank you. Because we are trying to keep ourselves healthy, and that's been very welcome.
So most families have access to internet and digital device. You haven't heard a family say, I wish, but I don't have a computer or I don't have any internet.
I haven't heard anyone saying that. Even if they have little kids that are at home, they are more than ever aware of the computer. And after COVID, I've seen a lot of parents saying, that now I have to learn because I have to help my son, I have to help my daughter, and also with the phone. I had an appointment with a lady that she was older than 50, and she was like, you are teaching me a lot about this because I never used Zoom before, and going step by step. So it's a rewarding work, and people have been very happy about having that chance that otherwise they won't do it. I don't meet with anyone, and I said, that's fine, so.
Yeah. And every time that we have this conversation, like we mentioned before, is this community is very resilient. And we have taken COVID-19 and somehow we have figured it out, and community engagement has not stopped, which is really refreshing. Liz, so from your perspective, how can we move the needle? How can we make sure that our community are out there exercising their right?
Yeah, I'm going to tackle both questions, Yaridis. I'm going to take a stab at both. So one, you asked about barriers, and I would say the number one barrier that I encounter is misinformation. So I'm going to thank the Congressman for plugging our website and encourage you and everybody in your network to please turn to votepinellas.com for the official information from the Supervisor of Elections office, especially during presidential election years. There's a lot of third-party organizations. I'm sure you all have gotten a few pieces of mail that, are partisan, and they may have our address on it. Anything that comes out of our office is nonpartisan, and any official election information is going to be at votepinellas.com. So please spread that far and wide. That is by far the number one barrier that I encounter. And then as far as what we can do to move the needle forward, I'm going to share with you, research shows that the overwhelming number one predictor of whether or not somebody will vote is whether or not their parents voted. It's almost like a hereditary thing. So the number one thing that I would urge all of you to do is find a young person in your life and make registering to vote a rite of passage. You can pre-register at 16 in Florida. So make a big deal about that. But when you go get your driver's license, guess what? When you turn 16, you can also pre-register to vote and start learning about your community. I know it's, it can be kind of boring for young people to learn about, or even for some older folks to learn about their local officials, but I want to encourage all of you to think about what COVID has done to our communities, right? The president's kind of busy. He's not the one who's been deciding whether or not our beaches would be open or closed, whether or not our children will be able to attend school in person, or if it'll be virtual. Think about the people in your community. Who's been making those decisions? It's not in the White House. That's happening here. And those are major things that impact all of our lives every single day. The people making those decisions are here in your community. So I will encourage all of you to think about the importance of engaging in the electoral process and having a say in who gets to make those types of decisions, whether you agreed with the way that things have been handled or not. Your chance to build a better union, to build a better community is on election day at the ballot box. So I encourage all of you to think about your local elected officials as the people who make those important decisions, and also as a pipeline, right? These folks that you see in federal office often start in your local communities. I can use Senator Rubio, for example, was a city commissioner, right? So these are, people don't just show up and become governors and senators. They go through this pipeline, and those are the folks in your community right now. So I encourage all of you to get engaged, educate yourselves, visit our website, get that basic information, and then find the young people in your life, get them registered, make a big deal about that, because it is. Help them become the type of informed, engaged citizens that we need in the electoral process in our communities.
Oh, I feel already the revolution coming. I love this.
Let's do it. Let's go.
Can you give us the deadline so we make sure that everybody go out there and, revolutionize the voting process? So what are some of the deadlines?
Absolutely. So yesterday was the voter registration deadline, so that has passed. But going forward, October 24th is the last day for you to request that we send you a mail ballot in the mail. If you miss that deadline, you can still get your mail ballot, but you have to come into our office to get it. Obviously, that's because time in the post office to get to your home and then to come back to us may not have enough time. I do want to encourage all of you to consider voting by mail. It is extremely safe. We have 25 mail ballot drop-off locations all around the county. So if you're a Pinellas County resident, you are probably within 3 miles of a drop-off location. You can also come by our office. We have a drive-through right up front of our building here in our Largo location. And I encourage all of you to send your ballots back with at least a week. If you choose to send them in through the mail, please give it at least a week. And know that the deadline to have them back here in our office is 7 o'clock on election day, not postmarked, but actually received. So every election, we always, a couple of days later, we'll get things that people postmarked on election day. The deadline to turn in for us to receive your mail ballot is 7 o'clock on election day. So if you forget it and on election day, you're like, oh my goodness, it's still in my car. Come on down to one of our offices, or you can take that ballot with you to your polling location. You can turn it in. They will take that ballot out of commission and you can vote in person. But please do not pop it in the mail. If it's less than a week, come on down, come see us. And all of that information is right on our homepage.
That is great. One more question and a lot of messages, which is really great. Is there any services for senior citizens that might not be able to go to vote? Is there any transportation services for them?
We do not offer transportation services. I have been going to senior facilities because obviously a lot of them are on lockdown. So I've been dropping off materials for them to register and request mail ballots, doing virtual sessions like this, and then I'll go back and pick up their materials. We are facilitating any vote by mail applications that seniors want to turn in, like I'm happy to go pick it up. You know, we're working with them the best that we can. We do not have a transportation service, but we are, and you know, a lot of them have reached out to us about voting by mail, which is really a wonderful option for seniors.
Okay, and I see in the chat, like I said, Pinellas is very rich with resources, and I see in our attendees sharing information that Governor DeSantis has extended the voting registration online until 7 p.m. today, and PSTA is also offering free bus rides on election day. So again, this is the beauty of working in Pinellas County. Thank you so much. Thank you for all the information that you have provided. And Jacqueline keeps reminding me, if you haven't completed your census, do so, because that is the beginning of our future. Thank you for sharing your expertise this afternoon. From Abrazo a la Distancia Task Force, I would like to thank you for spending 1 hour of your valuable time. And we hope you gather as much as information and resources to better serve our Latino community in Pinellas County. Don't forget to join us next week as we are taking a virtual tour of the Dalí Museum and learn a little bit more about the love story of Frida Kahlo and Diego Rivera on Thursday, October 15th at 8 a.m. in English and 6 p.m. in Spanish. Thank you for your interest in learning about our rich and extensive culture. And remember, there is no power for change greater than a community discovering what it cares about. Muchas gracias, and please be safe.
Thank you.